Yeah, I'm getting stronger.
I'm excited to be able to partner with you. For real. I love this. I love this.
So we can get stronger.
Become aware of your thoughts. To be a fit individual, you have to become aware of what you're thinking on a daily basis.
Weird. It sounds weird.
It sounds crazy, but
Makes me really happy to hear that. Keep strengthening. Babe, do you have any idea how much I love you?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm like actually serious. Like,
Yeah,
do you, how do you know? How do you know that I love you?
Actions, your actions are a part of it. I mean, obviously you say it, so you verbalize it, and then you follow that verbalization up with action.
Like, what does an action look like? Like, you get kisses and hugs, and that shows that I love you.
Consistency.
Of like keeping my word, or
Yes, that's definitely a big part of it.
to do that.
To keep your word and to, even when you're not realizing you're being watched, you're being watched. So some of it's conscious and some of it's unconscious, but to see the consistency of doing what you say you're going to do, actually following through, actually looking at how you not only treat me, but how you treat others, shows me that there's a level of love that is a differentiator between how I see things that you do with other people. And then
Actually, makes me really happy to hear that. And I was sitting here thinking just through like how our relationship started, how we even got to where we are in our relationship, because it's crazy. I remember first meeting you, and like it was literally fresh out of a divorce, and there is no way on God's green earth that I was going to get into another relationship that fast. No way, no way. And you just made like this transition so smooth. And I remember just being really nervous and going, how do I know that this one's gonna last? I don't know if anyone else had like those thoughts in their mind, like whether you're in a marriage or just a relationship, like how do I know that this one's gonna last? Like one huge thing is you get out of a long relationship and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to start over. Like there was so much work that went into that. And there was a part of that for me when I first met you, like, oh, this is starting over. And then how do I know this one's gonna last? Like I was in a 20-year long relationship. It was a freaking long time. That's a long time. And then to step out of that and meet someone brand new who doesn't know me from the beginning, of starting from the very beginning, and having to get to know myself, having to heal from past stuff, and then having to be in a relationship with you at the time, my biggest problem, or not problem, but my biggest fear was, is this gonna last? Because I don't want another failed marriage. And I remember you had this whole like expectation of kind of what you were looking for, and you were like, look, I know what I want now. And do you remember the sentence that you told me when you like looked at me? You're like, I know what I want, and you're what? Do you remember?
I'm your best shot.
Yeah. You were like, and you told me like, you said, you're my best shot. And you were like, I know what you want, and I'm your best shot. That changed everything. Like I sat back and I was like, the fear kind of left. I mean, I was still a little intimidated by some stuff, but I was like, he's not lying, because I knew what I needed, what I really wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what type of partner I needed, all of those things. And I hadn't been able to find that before, but I also wasn't that person before. So with you, I knew that not only would I potentially have a partner that really would help me to reach those goals and that I can accomplish all of these dreams and visions and things that I had, but you would help me become the person that I needed to be in order to be a partner for you to maintain that lasting love. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I was just trying to think through some of the pieces, and I'm like, man, you know what? I really believe this is going to last. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten into the marriage if I didn't, but I really do believe that this will last. And that's why I wanted to ask you that. Like, what are the things that you know or you see as far as within our marriage of me loving you, and how you know that I love you? And I love that you said consistency, because I feel like that's a huge part of being able to have a relationship that actually has longevity. Does that make sense, or do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think to answer the question in a way, I would say that when you're thinking about, is it going to last? The first thing you got to do is look at yourself, right? And so that's what I did first. Before, I may have asked you the question, but the first thing for me was, am I willing to go the distance?
You mean when you met me?
Yeah.
That's what you were asking
for
yourself.
me, like, am I willing to go the distance,
Yeah.
right? And so there have been times where I said, yeah, but the commitment level wasn't there, or the maturity wasn't there, or I wasn't available, right? I could be physically there, but I wasn't emotionally available, or I didn't even know that I wasn't. I thought I was because I was showing up. Like I physically was showing up, but I wasn't showing up emotionally. And so in this situation, I looked at, okay, where am I? What do I need? And I realized that I needed to be rescued, right, in a way, right? And so I'm willing to rescue somebody, but I want to be rescued also, right? And I want somebody who's going to
I remember you saying that.
go the distance, right? And so, but there's that part where you say, okay, I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to learn to do my part. And that's where I think I was able to bridge the gap of and help maybe. I ain't gonna say I took all the fears away, but helped some of the fears subside because I really was willing to show up.
You were.
You know
and you mean you still do. And that's huge. That's another aspect of that consistency. And it kind of makes me start to think of like the past relationships that I've been in, and especially my previous marriage. When I think of like, why didn't that actually last? Like, I wonder how many people get into additional marriages, another, their second marriage or their third marriage, and they actually, who sits back and actually says, why didn't the last one work? What do I need to change? Or, what do I need to find different or do differently or anything like that? And I don't know, like, I actually think I have some of my own answers to that. Have you ever thought about that? Like, we're talking about the concept or the topic of lasting love, but what about the loves in the past that we have to learn from that didn't last? Do you, like in your previous marriage or previous relationship, do you have any idea? Have you thought about why didn't it work? Why didn't it last? Yeah,
I mean, especially when it's somebody that you care about. When you genuinely cared about the person and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And now you either left them wounded or you're wounded or you're both wounded, and you don't want that because you cared about the person. So I did an introspective. I was looking to see, how could I have done things differently? What could she have done differently? And when I realized that I was in the relationship, but I wasn't in the relationship. And so.
You mean you showed up physically? Like.
I showed up with the things I knew to show up with, but I wasn't willing to learn anything new, right? And I wasn't willing to change, or there was no flexibility. There's a difference between being like a nice guy, like you can be a nice guy, but not the guy, right? And so I had manners. I was taught to open the door. I was taught to take care of a woman. I was taught to make her feel secure and do certain things and provide for her, but I wasn't available. I wasn't available emotionally. I wasn't available part-time spiritually. And so when I look back, I realized that it was my way or no way.
Wow.
And so I didn't realize, because I was a giver, but I wasn't giving what the person needed all the time, right? And so it was, I think I said it, before in our conversation, is that I made the decision that even though I'm nice, my feelings are more important than the other person's feelings. And so you're not going to build a healthy relationship when your feelings matter more than the other person's. I didn't realize that until I got out of the relationship, that's how I was using weapons, right? And I framed our relationship around money. And so.
Wow. Because you were the one making.
Well, she was making money when I met her, but I boxed her in.
I see.
Right? So she wasn't on the.
That's such a level of control that I see often. And I'm not going to say it's only men that do it, but I see it more frequently with men, because I feel like the men is supposed to be that provider. Or I don't know if they're supposed to be, but that was the intention. Like if you take it all the way back to the biblical days, right? The man was supposed to till the land and the woman was helping. And I feel like when you're saying that, like, I can see that with you also, where it is a big deal for you to provide for your family. But I could also see how maybe in your past, with a little less maturity, you would then use that and weaponize it to be able to control. Like
I didn't do it in a way that was so conscious.
You didn't do it on purpose. It just happened.
I think I did it on purpose, but not with the intention of hurting or to manipulate. But I used it as a way of as I said, boxing somebody in to where when you meet somebody, they're working, they're providing for themselves, and then you show them this whole new world that they may not have had an opportunity to experience before, and then you take them out of their environment and you place them in a whole new environment, and then you are like, you don't have to work.
Right. That's for the purpose of control. I now control you. You live here. Like
it wasn't. I wasn't trying to control. That's what I thought I'm supposed to do. That's what I was raised to do. I was taught that part of me being the best version of me is making the woman the best version of herself. But I didn't understand that that may mean she wants to pursue her career or she wants to work at a particular job. My lifestyle was I would never have my woman work for another man. I'm not going to have you say you got to be to work at 8 a.m. and then I tell you to do something for me and you're like my boss. So your boss rules.
See how that would mess your ego up a little bit.
I just, it's not in my DNA to have my wife work or my significant other work for somebody and that person have the right for them to say they can't take a vacation or they have to work overtime or whatever the case. I'm built differently. I'm cut from a different cloth. Where I'm from, that's like you haven't done your job. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, that's something different because there's levels to entrepreneurship. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some times where it's really great, and then sometimes where you got to grind.
Yeah.
So, but you're grinding for you, or you're grinding for us, as opposed to grinding for someone at a corporate office. So, I put her in a position where I was the provider, and in order to share my life, you have to follow these rules. But I didn't realize that I was handicapping her.
What would you do differently? Or like if you could rewind and your right now self is looking back to your younger self in that marriage, in that relationship.
I would have more patience.
So if you wanted to make that relationship last, the current you would tell the younger you, be more patient.
Yeah, like just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do it, right? Or don't be so to where whatever I say is the way, right? I realized I'm wrong about a lot of things, right? And that there's even doing a thing, there's multiple ways to do it. And so she had, lots of ideas, but I wasn't patient. She was young. So I was grooming her, right? And so by her being young and not having the type of experiences that I've had, I used that to my advantage, right? And so I thought I was exposing her, which I did, to other
whole new world.
Yeah, whole new world, other things and different lifestyle and positivity, and you can be whatever you want to be, but it was still under the guise of doing it my way, as opposed to giving her the freedom to blossom. Right? There were things that she wanted to do, and I was just like, nope, not right now. And it was just that. That's it. So I would tell my younger self to slow down, or that guy in that relationship, slow down, have some patience, let her develop, because you don't know what she can be. You don't know how much value she can add to you. But me pushing and rushing her to do it this way or that way didn't give her the freedom. Even though she learned a lot, and I learned a lot as well. But I think I could have done it I could have done it in a way that would have given her the ability to not feel like if she made a mistake, I was going to put my foot on her neck, type of thing.
And you think that one change, that alteration, would have provided for more of a lasting love?
No, I mean, there were a lot of things. Like, I didn't know how to communicate effectively. Like, communication is sending and receiving a message. So I was sending messages, but I wasn't sure she was receiving it, right?
It's a lot of people,
right.
Yeah.
And so communication, like, I mean, this is the first real relationship that I'm even communicating in, us, for real, to, keep it 100.
Thanks for that.
So, and it's work, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's easy. So.
Is it rewarding, though?
Some days it's more rewarding than others. I mean, it definitely feels, there's this whole give and take and ebb and flow of, am I doing this because you want me to do it? Or am I doing this because it's the right thing to do? Yeah. So there's always the ego, right? We're always balancing against, is this my ego? Or is this something that I genuinely believe I should be doing? Or are you forcing me to do it, right? And so, guys, we go through, I'm going to say me, but I think a lot of guys go through, is the woman trying to manipulate me? Like, is she trying to lord over me? Is she trying to have power over me, right? And so dealing with the conversation that's going on in your head, you have to relax and say, even though this may not feel good at the moment, is it good for me? And when you are making lots and lots of money, you have a lot of yes people.
Yeah.
And I had too many people, so it wasn't her, but I had too many other people that would just say yes to anything, and so you feel entitled.
Yeah.
So I was entitled.
Empowered.
Yeah, I was entitled in the relationship.
That's crazy. That's a really good point, to be really mindful of the people that you have around you, because of that reason. If you're not having people that are holding you accountable, that are telling you who you really are, that help to be, because I know, and we always talk about this, but marriage really is a mirror that you see yourself in. Like every day we wake up to each other, and I see the good, bad, the ugly. You see the good, bad, and the ugly. And thank you for still loving me and choosing to be here. Anyway, by the way, I appreciate that.
Well, nobody ever saw the good, bad, and the ugly.
With you, you're saying?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Like
I would retreat.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I appreciate that. Like, thank you for putting that effort in, because again, I feel like that's a really great staple for the intention of a lasting love, is not leaving, right? And really being willing to put the work in. And you would have told me that so many times. I don't usually talk. I don't usually communicate. This is not really, I don't usually stay here. And at the beginning of a relationship, how many times would you get frustrated and just walk away? And I'll be like, no, this doesn't fix anything. You can't just leave. You can't just walk away. And then slowly over time, this is why, guys, it is so important, women, for you to find a man that is submitted to God. Because even when I speak to him and my words don't get through to him, he really is submitted to God. And so he will have his time. And because you do have that like alone time that you set with God, you'll come back and, and just share. A lot of times I don't even tell you what's frustrating me. And I will really just take it to prayer. And like I'll have 5 hour long, so maybe not 5 hours, but like 2 hour long showers. That's my time with the Lord, especially when I'm so frustrated with something. And I'll just be telling him everything that he needs to change this. Jeff's frustrating me because da, da, da. And then I will come out and you'll be like, hey, I just want to tell you, I apologize for this. And this is what the Lord put on my heart. And I'm like, what? Like that worked? Like, I didn't know that prayer worked, but sometimes it has actually been immediate. Yeah. So I'm thankful for that for sure. But there are so many different pieces. And I think to lasting love, and I think it's really important to at least start with the introspective look of yourself in the areas that you have already had experiences in, and determine what can I alter or change? How can I be better? And then also maybe even looking at other people's experiences that are around you, learning from mistakes they made so you don't have to make them, learning from great victories that they've had so that you can, be able to experience those too. And I did the same thing where I sat and just thought through like, man, I married young. When I first got married, my first marriage was very young. Like I had met him at 17. We got married at 21. It was young. And I remember thinking like, this is going to work because I go to church and they say that divorce is not allowed. So to me, that's the only reason it was going to work. I didn't really know that there were steps that you actually have to put in, that there was work that you have to put into a marriage. I didn't know that. And I know that seems weird, but I have people in my family that have just always been married. They've always been together. And they've made really silly mistakes and really dumb decisions. When I was younger, I didn't see the consequences of those decisions. When I got older, now I look at those people and I'm like, oh, well, they're divorced. They're not together. They hate each other, And I didn't realize that a lot of the mistakes that they made when I was younger was the reason why the results are what they are now. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So at the time I was like, oh, it's okay to have all of your friends be people of the opposite sex. Why is that not okay? All my family does it and they're fine. But I didn't see the results back then. It wasn't until I got older that I was like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't always work out so well because you put yourself in a really potentially bad position. And so there's so many other different things that I remember looking back on. And when I look at the flaws that I had in my previous marriage, it really came down to my level of submission to God and a certain level of selfishness and entitlement, which is the words that you said, thinking that this is what I deserve. I'm right, thinking that, there's certain things that were only about me and how come you don't do this and you don't do that, instead of thinking, what can I do for you? And believing that your reciprocation because you love me will then give me what I need for myself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like that's I'm thankful for our reciprocation because we've learned, and it's sad. Okay. It's very sad that at the expense of previous relationships and other people, we've had to learn those lessons. But I am very thankful that God has restored a lot of those previous relationships where there's peace, there's amicability, all those things, and then has also given us, if I can say, like a second chance, a second shot at being able to have an actual lasting love.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know what marriage really was. It's like you're signing up for something, but you really don't know what you're signing up for.
Yes.
Right. And it's like I was in the military. I signed up for the military. When I got there, it wasn't what I thought it was. Right. And so that's like when you, okay, I want to marry you. I want to be in this relationship. But most of us really don't know what that really entails. What does it really mean to be married to somebody and say that I'm going to share the rest of my life with you, right? And so, especially like you said, when you're young, you don't have enough experience to see what could go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think a lot of times we are only seeing it from the vantage point that we have, the experience level that we have. And if you're not talking to married couples, older couples that have had, success, then you're only looking at probably a lot of relationships that failed, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to get to a place where, okay, what does it really take to have a successful marriage, right? And it always boils down to me first.
Well, yeah, absolutely,
right?
yes.
And so I can't look at you and say you're not doing A, B, and C. Even if you're not doing A, B, and C, okay, I got to take the responsibility of saying, okay, what is my A, B, and C, right? And I believe that each person in the marriage can make a difference, right? But I feel a strong part that if the marriage fails, a lot of time the man could have done things differently. Not by 100% am I not blaming all men, but I think that there are a lot of times that we don't take the real command of the relationship, right? And say, okay, I'm going to be willing to learn everything I need to learn about marriage and about my wife, about myself, so that we can have a healthy relationship. I think we start to, I'm good at these 5 things. And those are the 5 things we focus on. But there's 50 other things that are going to make this, and each year there's just 5 or 10 new things that need to be added, right? Just like being a parent.
Yeah.
You can't just be a parent one day. You got to be a parent every day. And every year you got to change and grow because the kid is changing and growing. And so that's the thing with the relationship is every day it's changing and growing, but we could be changing and growing apart. And I think that's when
it ends up not lasting.
Yeah, is when you go to work.
Yeah.
He goes to work.
Yeah.
Y'all come back and y'all dealing with the kid, or you're dealing with the bills, or you're dealing with this thing, or they're growing a business, or trying to do something on the side.
And don't get me wrong, we do that though. That is our life. Yeah. We do all of that, where you go your way, I go my way. Sometimes we don't come back together until the end of the evening. And I could see, and especially in like certain seasons of our life that we've experienced, I've really realized, because like you said, entrepreneurship is just this ebb and flow of these different types of experiences that you have. And I remember like really watching us one time, and it happens every so often, where I'll sit back and be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in days. Like, this is crazy. And the people that go to work super early in the morning, or the people that aren't on the same hours, like I have a friend who's literally works a complete opposite shift of their spouse, and they don't have even the same days off of work. Is that a marriage? Like, until you quit, and she actually ended up quitting her job, but for that reason, I believe. But it's just crazy when I think about it. I'm like, you can't, you have to change, something has to give.
Well,
you have to change something.
Have a plan. Right?
Some type of plan. Like we have a Friday plan.
Right, but part of it is that's what I'm saying. The responsibility of the head of the house is to, let's put a plan together. And when you can make it work without a plan, but it won't be to the fullness.
Yeah.
Right, because we need to be on the same page. We don't have to be on the same line.
Yeah.
We need to be on the same page.
Absolutely,
right? And
yes.
so I take responsibility of realizing, oh, I didn't put a plan together for the family. I didn't put a plan together in any of those other relationships, right? And so it was doomed to fail because there was no roadmap, right? You may pivot and make changes in here and there, but there was no roadmap. Where are we going?
Yeah.
Right, and that's an important thing that any couple should know is, where are we going, right? Where do we want to be 5 years from now? Where do we want to be, Lord willing, where do we want to be 10 years from now, right? And we still haven't done that, but I have a vision but I need to share that vision, and you need to add.
We do that we don't sit down and say, let's write it all out, but
Right.
we'll be on a long drive and you'll be like, I want property over here. I want to eventually,
Right, but it should be written down.
Yeah.
Right.
And
because now
then it becomes a plan.
Is your word that you like to say accountable to
Accountable,
it, right?
yes.
And so there's something about putting it on paper, right? There's something about having it in your mind, saying it out loud, but there's something about when you put it on paper, it's a different.
Yeah.
It manifests itself differently, and so I think that I came to this relationship wanting to win, right? I came to the relationship saying I immediately said I'm laying down my sword and my shield. I didn't know what that really meant, but I'm not going to block you, and I'm not going to stab you, right? So that being said, I was like, okay, now I need to figure out how to trust you. One of the biggest things is, can you trust a person with intimate secrets or knowing who you are behind the veil, right? And a lot of people never got to know me. So
You didn't let them. So.
right, in those relationships, they never knew me. They knew the person that showed up.
Yeah.
Right. So because if something wasn't going the way I wanted to go, I had multiple lives. I had an East Coast life, I had a West Coast life, I had multiple places. I had an apartment nobody even knew I had. Right. So I could just go chill, get myself together, and then come back. Right.
Okay.
So I decided I'm not going to live that life. I'm not going to live that secret type of life. And
It's just a decision.
Yeah, it's a decision.
So, okay, that's huge. I was just talking to somebody the other day, here actually, and on one of the shows, and I had asked, how did you guys last so long? She's in the entertainment industry, married to a famous rapper, and she's like, I said, how the heck, 15 years? Like, the lifespan, the shelf life of a marriage in Hollywood is about 7 years.
Right.
And you guys have lasted this long. How? And she said, my answer is so easy and so simple. It's no long, grand explanation. She's like, we wanted it to work. I want it to work. So I wake up and I do whatever it takes to want it to work. And when you're driven, especially entrepreneurs, my opinion only, but there should be no reason entrepreneurs' marriages fail. Because you put the effort, like successful entrepreneurs, let me say that. If you put the effort into a successful business and you understand how to hustle and how to do whatever it takes to get whatever your desired result is going to be, you should not have a failed marriage. When you always say marriage is just like a business.
Right.
Similarly.
I mean, yeah, it's a contract in marriage, it's a covenant. I mean, it's a contract in business and a covenant in marriage. Same sort of concept. I mean, one is a little more than the other, but if you can run your business like a successful marriage, and you can run your marriage like a successful business, that's a match made in heaven, right? And so that's treat it like it is important to you, right? Not just like most people will treat their business more important, and I have done it too. I'm guilty of it because it's easy to quantify. I put this many hours in, I do this thing over here, I sell this over here, I get this back immediately. Sometimes when you're pouring into a marriage or a relationship, you don't necessarily see the results immediately.
Yeah.
But it's like a seed.
That's good.
It's going to grow, right? And depending on how you water it and continue to water it, and that's going to determine how much it grows and how big it grows and how healthy it grows. But it's easy to, put effort into something that's quantifiable.
Yeah.
Right? Like working out. I work out, I can feel the pain, I can see a muscle. Being nice to you every day doesn't mean I'm getting the result right away, right? Or that's the wrong reason to do it.
It's a muscle.
So I had to learn that I need to do this as if I'm doing it unto God.
Yeah.
And not with no expectation. I've never been there. I always expected something back, right? I might not have counted, like I call it counting, right? That I might take you to dinner 50 times.
So you owe me.
Yeah, right. And so when I was younger, I would add up, I took her to dinner this many times, that equals this much sex, right? And I realized.
So, hey, with whose scale? Your own personal scale?
My own scale. Or I bought
Is there
you.
a universal scale? How many dinners to sex?
I bought you these shoes, or I bought you this bag, or I took you on this vacation, right? Now, what am I getting back?
Yeah.
Right? You doing the dishes?
Yeah.
Like, what are the, right? We got a maid to do the dishes.
Wow.
Like, what are you, like, so I was a counter. I didn't realize I was, but I was counting, right? And so, because I could quantify it. Oh, that vacation, that would have been a new pair a watch or a new pair of shoes or this for me. So I thought sacrificing meant that I was a good guy.
I think it's really important for everyone to understand what it is they're getting into in relationships, for what their responsibilities are and what they should expect of themselves to be able to sacrifice and give, and then what the other person should do for them back. And I just want to remind you, do you remember when it was, I don't even remember if it was last year or the year before, for our anniversary, what we did for our anniversary? Because you're such a businessman. Everything about you is all business, right?
Well, you put that together.
So, well, but it was still what we did for our, so we try to renew our vows every year. Not try, we do it. We renew our vows every year. And we did, we went to a boardroom. We had gone, had this boardroom. We invited 6 or 7 of our closest friends, like our board, right?
Of directors.
Our board of directors. And I surprised him. I told him he needed to wear a business suit. And he was coming to basically a business meeting. And what he was doing was he was coming to sign a deal or renew our deal. So our attorney, and it was literally, we had our actual attorney draw up this entire contract. And what I love about our attorney is that she has a strong faith in God too. And so she had been very familiar with the Bible based off of how she grew up. So she found all these scriptures in the Bible about what the responsibility was for a male and a woman, a husband and a wife in a marriage. And, you know, I had only heard a couple, I mean, I've heard all the scriptures, but I've only heard a few of them over and over and over repeated. Husbands, submit to your wives, you know, wives, respect your husbands, husbands, love you, whatever. All the same stuff. But the ones that she found was like really reminding you, like there was one in First Peter that was like, wives, your job is to be quiet. When this man is not paying attention to God's word or respecting God's word, your job is to be quiet, win him over without a word. So instead of adorning yourself in beautiful apparel and makeup and hair, your job is to actually sit there and be quiet. I don't know if you guys know or if you've caught on yet, but that's not something I do. The be quiet part, that'll work for me very well, right? So I remember reading that and going, like I have to sign this? And we had to like initial certain sections. And it was a joke and it was silly and it was funny. It was a beautiful way for us to renew our vows. And we had someone that was like mediating the deal and all that stuff. But it was just such an amazing like reminder and understanding of what my job was to you and what your, you know, responsibilities were to me, so that we can decide like, you sure you still want to get into this? So I don't know. I genuinely am really thankful that we are in a relationship where we're at and that the Lord has given us that opportunity, right, to be able to have that together. And I'm believing, guys, I am believing that so many of you out there that have experienced a former relationship that just didn't end well, or that just ended and you didn't expect it to do that, I'm believing for a second chance for you to, or a third or a fourth or a fifth, whatever you're on right now. But what I mean by that is that you're going to have an opportunity to be able to look inside yourself and determine what it is that you can work on, that you can change, what it is that you liked and didn't like, and have an opportunity to be able to actually put that into practice so that you two can have a lasting love. It's a muscle. Yeah. We got to practice. Keep practicing, guys. Keep strengthening.
Yeah, I'm getting stronger.